for programming, people say that you have to be pretty good in logical or visual solving things. So how did you develop that part on you?
See, very simple, I'll tell you. Class எழுதுவோம் C++ல. Usually வந்து get set method போட மாட்டோம்.
Correct.
எல்லாமே பப்ளிக்கா போட்டு dot. You know, that's what somebody would have done. Then you'll go read one book and say, see, that's not good practice.
How hard it is to learn programming for a non-programmer?
Again, I feel in today's situation, it doesn't matter whether you're working or not working, this constant upskilling has to become second nature for you.
Can you tell what GoZeal does? How do you manage things?
If you have a challenge into physically going into the workspace and you want flexibility, we give you flexibility.
Together, let's actively challenge stereotypes, fight bias and broaden perceptions, and take a step towards gender equality.
Get used to the habit of failing. Is it okay?
Make all the mistakes when you're younger. It's easier to get up, dust yourself and move on. Constantly listen to people talk, take it in, and then see how you can apply it to your use case. In one company, I used to drop my kids at 8:30 and maybe reach work by 9. And I used to leave at 5:30. So actually, one day my manager came and told me, oh, people are complaining that you're leaving sharp at 5:30. But I said, why not?
Hi all, as part of the GWR event, நம்ம என்ன பண்றோம்னா இந்த savi.ai-க்கு வந்து we are bringing smart people who has done great things. So அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு பர்சன் தான் சித்ரா. ஓகேங்களா? ஏன் ஸ்மார்ட் சொல்றேன்னா, as you listen you will know it, because she has touched both tech, she has touched the management, both on-site, offshore, எல்லா இடத்துலயும் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. She can talk about everything. As a mom, as a developer, as a project manager, lot of facets shared. And currently, இதோட முக்கியமான விஷயம் வந்து இந்த GoZealனு she is part of a company. So we'll understand that will be much more relevant for this conversation. Welcome, Chitra.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Okay. First, Chitra, just உங்களை பத்தி ஒரு background சொல்லுங்க. Where do you study?
So I studied Chennai girl, college. Okay. Church Park School, College Stella Maris. Did physics undergraduate. 1 year of postgraduate physics. I said, I cannot do physics. The easiest thing to change track was computer science.
Okay.
So I did a master's in computer science and then an app tech, which was what everybody did. And post that, I got my first job as a C++ programmer.
Okay.
And I stayed in the same company for 18 years. I don't know if people do that anymore, but I'm one of the rare species who did it. So I grew in rank along there. I had a part of, let's say I worked for European clients, on-site, off-site, as you said. And then I worked within the company also. So we were a civil and structural engineering product company, developing products in that domain. And then when I left them in 2016, finally, I was director of product development. That's what it was.
Okay.
So, but then after that, I tried to do something as a consultant basis, I think, to figure out where I wanted to be, because I think, as I said, 18 years of your life is a large chunk. So I worked for the Pfizer MD of Pfizer India had an advisory team. So I went and worked with him. That was very useful for me because I understood how a multinational company actually work, and things like post training. I didn't even know something that existed, right? I kind of slowly realized what it meant and what were the rights you needed to have as a woman. Even as general as people, HR policies in general doesn't have to be women. But I think that was my first exposure to women in general. And in particular, not in general. And then I worked for 2 startups, one in the HR tech and EdTech space, which kind of shut with COVID. And just before COVID is when I met Sangamitra.
Okay.
And she had this dream of having an all-women company with giving them flexibility to work from home. So that time I loved the cause because I was at a stage that time to say, you know what, I don't want to go back to a corporate job. I don't want to do 9 to 5 and say, okay, yes. I had kind of tasted a little bit of freedom and I wanted to have that. So I said, I love the cause, but I was not sure of working with people I've never met in my life. But then COVID happened and we all know that working from home became the new norm. And I've been with her for the last 3 years now and it's been an incredible journey.
Nice. That's sweet. So, a lot of things to touch upon. First, let me start from, so you are a physics person.
Yes.
So how hard it is to learn programming for a non-programmer?
Actually, no, it is not too hard. I think it's just the mindset of what you want to do. And I think that's in everything. See, I feel even now, unless it's like SME, if I want to become a doctor, it's a problem because you need a certain skill set for that. But I think for programming, it's just a mindset of how we want to approach the problem. And I think initially I was not so great because systematically, I think our education system has taught you to kind of reproduced, right? And I think you had to think on your own. I think it took me some time to say, hey, there's multiple solutions to a problem. How do you approach different things? Like, there's no one right, one wrong. And it's not like you can't go to somebody to say, hey, give me an answer. For example, I think when I joined, which is pretty ancient, we didn't even have Google. We could not search for codes. So, and I think I was telling you earlier, I think our first project given to us was an I-beam which has a curve and an arrow had to come.
Okay.
And we spent days, when I mean days to get it correct. And you know what happened at the end of it? The PM came and said, hey, this is the correct code, go look at it. We said, how could you make us do it? But he said, no, how do you know? Even know to get there, right? So I think I've come from the tried and tested, work hard, figure out on your own, a generation of girls, maybe if I can call myself that. Yeah.
So one more question, like typically for programming, people say that you have to be pretty good in logical or visual solving things. So how did you develop that part on you?
I think a logical skill I had. I think inherently, I'd like to believe I have some logical skills.
But how did you apply in the programming part? Because general logic is different, but here it is structural logic, right? So did you add any challenges in the initial stages? Or it is something, tricks and tips which would help you others?
I don't know. I think I would say truthfully, the way I would have learned is I would have probably done a certain approach. And அந்த காலத்துல we had inbuilt libraries. இப்போ grid பண்ணா கூட we will not stack overflow போயில நாங்க grid எடுக்க மாட்டோம். நாங்களே library create பண்ணி grid எடுப்போம். As in delete, enter, like that, right? Because we felt that we had to develop our own libraries and it was expensive to go to third party libraries and the madri. So what I would have done is looked at some existing code and try to replicate it. But also I think over time it became like you kind of read some books and read best practices and we will come back. See, very simple, I'll tell you. Class எழுதும் C++. Usually get set method போட மாட்டோம்.
Correct.
எல்லாமே public போட்டு dot. That's what somebody would have done. Then you'll go read one book and say, that's not good practice. Then you'll go back and say, you'll have to say, and that probably a senior would have done that, Then you need to say, hey, na get set எழுதலாமா. Then he'll be like, நீ வேணா எழுதிக்கோ. ஏன்னா எல்லா இடத்தையும் அந்த பிரைவேட் ஆக்கி உன்னோடதுக்கும் கெட் செட் மெத்தட் போட்டு and it will be called by multiple libraries அதெல்லாம் பண்ணுவோம். But then you learn.
Correct.
And then of course when you work with people with again some seniors who are also better who come in and tell you follow this way or not follow, then of course Stack Overflow, which I think still is everybody's favorite and things like that. I think I'm not able to say on the kalatla blog la, I don't think we had access to those things. See, books were there. And honestly, maybe I'll read 2 chapters of the books. I don't know I ever got through the 10th chapter unless there was a problem to take me there. But I think it is just like trial and error and lot of maybe help in Microsoft or whatever. We used to do a lot of Visual Studio. I mean, that would be, I guess, not in terms of structure of the coding as you talk about. Yeah, these were the methods, I guess.
Okay. Okay. So you got into the coding. So how long you were a developer? Then what is the switch you had?
See, I think developer was for a pretty long time now. Maybe at least 7, 8, 9 years I was a developer.
All C++ developers?
C++, yeah. Visual Studio, C++, COM,
okay.
Registry, editing.
So nobody knows about COM. Most of the people
exactly. UID generation, all of those, right? And so all of that. So then what happened was at one point, there was a European client who wanted to try us out, I think, right? So I remember that was they said, do you have a new role as a project manager? So I was like, yes, project manager. Okay. I said, what's my team? They said, you. I said, how can I have a 1-member team, right? Yeah. But that's what they said. See, if you can do this well and we get the client, you get your own team. So that's what I did. I was all by myself, but I had this title called project manager. I did that. It was not like a POC, which the client was happy. And then I got my own team. I think that's when I slightly started moving managerial, because then I had this whole 30-40 people under my leadership, or whatever you want to call it, right? And we were still doing coding work for them. So you had to understand coding, and also it's all hands on the deck, right? If again it's debugging, and we worked a lot with numbers and calculations, right? It'll be like, how do you compare floats? You can't do double equal to all of these, 1 e power minus 6, all of this, So, and as I said, pointers, delete. You don't delete, it'll crash. Where is it crashing? So I think I mean, I think it's a lot of fun even today, as long as you crack the problem. Till you crack the problem is challenge. But I think you had to understand, well, let's put it this way. I think to be a good manager, you need to understand coding. One, to understand the pain points of coding, as well as to also see whether your team is working effectively. I think for both. So I think without coding, just being a PM, I don't think is...
But reverse, let's say writing code is one skill, but managing people is another skill, getting things done.
Yeah.
So they'll not align with your expectations. Yeah. So did you have any challenges or a mindset shift in doing that?
Okay, my mantra is all married women are great managers.
Oh, okay.
If you can get married and worry about somebody else's family and parents more than yours, who you've done all your years, you know to manage, right?
Okay.
You know, actually tell you more about, you know how to care for others who didn't matter to you that much till that point, right? So when you have a team, it's both.
Correct.
You have to understand where they come from, what they bring to the table, what you want to take, and definitely you learn to focus. At least in my case, I focused on the pros and the cons. I strongly believe rather than beat you at trying to do something you're not good at, you might as well focus on what they're good at and take the best. And I think that also you learn from relationships, right? You get married, you have whatever, your in-laws, your other people, and even a husband, whatever. You take what is good and leave what's bad. And I think I approach the same philosophy to even a team and my team. And I think even with my team, I was fiercely loyal even today. I don't know how well I got along with upper management, but my team, even now, random get one call and the person will be like, Chitra, I'll be like, yeah, tell me. He'll be like, at least for 2 seconds, hello, how are you, Kekla? I said, nee dideena 15 years kachi you phone pannana, I know there's something, right? And they'll be like, okay, I'll get to the point and we'll discuss and finish it. So I think that's one thing I'm quite proud of. I think somewhere I did that well and I earned the respect of my team. And I think that is, I did well, and I'm quite proud of that. Yeah.
Nice.
So I think management comes to me naturally. I'd like to say that.
Okay. So from there, let's get into GoZeal.
Yeah.
Can you tell what GoZeal does? How do you manage things?
Okay. So I'll tell you what the big dream of GoZeal is, right? So basically, I'll tell you what GoZeal does first. So GoZeal really wants to turn to work women back into the workforce.
Okay.
That's it. We want to we want women to come back to the workforce.
Maternity, right? Or any break.
Doesn't matter. If you have a challenge into physically going into the workspace and you want flexibility, we give you flexibility.
Okay.
That's a basic from the women angle, right? So what are we? We are not a staffing agency. So we say we are data science as a service company, hiring diverse women in tech. And currently we're focusing the insurance domain because Sangamitra, our founder, has about 20 years of experience in insurance.
Okay.
So what we do is we take a project, we then do fractional workforce because we give flexibility to our women. And probably I should attack that first. I say how we give them flexibility. One, you work from home. And two, we say we have 3 slots, one in the morning, afternoon, and evening. You can pick whichever works for you.
Okay.
But a total of, I minimum at least need 6 hours a day.
Okay.
So based on how you pick your hours, we kind of form groups because there should be an overlap of time. Like there are some teams who just work from 10 to 6. We all work 10 to 6, right? Some does morning and evening. So based on we give you flexibility, and then we form a team based on the group which works well together. We get the project, we do fractional workforce, we piecemeal it, and maybe what one person does, 2 people or 3 people can do, or 2 will do 3. And then there'll be one PM, project manager, who kind of coordinates with all these people and then presents it to the client.
Okay.
So I'll tell you, you need to come back to the workforce, especially after a break. The first thing which really affects you is a lack of confidence. We've had women who've traveled the world, headed large teams. Actually, even me myself, right? After the break, when Sangasa joined me, I didn't know where to fit myself into because I said, as you said, technology has changed so much. Like I sound like a dinosaur, even in terms of managerial skill, right? Okay. I could no longer demand. See, I have to ask, please, can you... See, when I work, late Saturday vanda permission. I mean, if I had delivery on Monday, Saturday vanda vela pannuven. Ipo appadilla kediyadhu. I have to ask, can you please work? Can you finish this? So it's a good thing, because it's a good thing. I think we're learning to respect people's personal time. So I think it was a mindset shift for me as to how to work with that. But then literally, I actually wrote one thing, and I wrote what my doubts were. And I kind of literally wrote down saying where they validated or not my doubt. And if it was not, I said, okay, in the skill, I can do on the go. And I think again, that's a challenge between men and women, I feel. Men will just take it on and say, we'll figure it out on the way. Women think we should know everything before jumping in, right? Which was in my case. So I literally wrote my checklist and said, you know what, Chitra, if I don't try and take a risk, you'll never know. And that's how I did.
Okay.
So again, with women, I want to say that it's okay.
So you did the checklist and then started, or before that you started?
See, I started earlier as well. But what I told her was, I said, I'm fiercely loyal to a fault. Okay. I mean, I worked 18 years in a company, you'll understand. So I want to make sure whoever I get into bed the next time, I want to be sure I want to be with them, right? So though Sangha said, like, ask us some 4 months, I said, I'll work with you, I'll figure out, let's see whether our interests are aligned and all of that, right? And only then, and then in the whole time, I had to evaluate what I thought was my, pain points or what I lacked. See, I have never been in front doing this. I would have never done this, what I'm doing even 2 years back.
Oh, okay.
That fact, Tangamitra, like saying, Chitra, go out there. Or even, I have never been on the front side of a business, right? I was always on the back side.
Back there, in the execution part.
Exactly, execution part. I've never been the front face. So I was never sure. And I tend to speak very fast. I'm quite free with my words. So I have to represent the best version of the company to others also, right? All of these doubts. But then, of course, there are things which you all can learn. So even with return to work women, I want to say, don't worry. You've actually been there, done that. You just have to come back, give yourself the confidence that you can do it. See, I think the only thing which is needed is the right attitude. If you want to do it, we are there to help. So I'll tell you the way we approach it also. So we initially ran a couple of cohorts where we said, like, it doesn't matter even if you don't have a tech background, come, we'll give you.
Can you really elaborate on the cohorts? What do you mean by cohort?
So we started a data science. Okay. So we did one basic cohort about what is data cleansing, what is data engineering, what is data modeling, what is data.
So you do the training part to them?
Yes. So we did first one we did a basic over 4 weeks. We did 2 hours a day. So the girls could go try and come back, right? Okay. And then we gave a little project. Then from that, we filtered and took about 25 girls. And we even gave them, for the second part, to keep them motivated, we gave them a stipend to just go through, right? Then we split them into 5 groups. I think we did Snowflake, we did Teradata, we did Power BI, we did Tableau, and we did... we did one more. So what similar projects we gave to all 5 of them, and we said, see how you can attack this, right? So what was interesting was the girls were working in groups so they can learn off each other, and they all presented something in the end. Adelaide, we picked some girls when it's needed.
Like a project-based learning.
Yeah, project-based learning. Adelaide, when we wanted, we took some girls. But also I think the challenge is, even though we bring them this far, there is a lot between just practicing and being client ready for delivering projects. I think that's where, if you are wanting to be working from home, and I'm not saying consultant, if you're not part of a larger system which is giving you that organically, you need to put in the effort.
Okay. So you're saying, like, apart from the hard skills, you need to have some soft skills.
Yes. You see, soft skills from one is even presenting, how to... see, the expectations today are different, right? Zoom calls. Even though I say work from home, how do you first of all present yourself in the Zoom call? Actually, this was taught by Beulah, which I think all of you will know. She told me, not told me, the team, like, if it's 10 o'clock and if you're actually late by 1 minute, if 10 people are waiting, it's 10 minutes.
Exactly.
Actually, that really hit me. So you have to be conscious, right? Simple things. And actually, all of these things are not something overcomplicated. Very, very simple, like, And again, though we say have your own workspace, everybody cannot have it. So just have a background. We have a standard background which is given to you. Make sure it's there. Mute yourself. Tell people around you that you're see, the problem is, even though you tell you have a child who comes to say, that's also okay. Genuinely. But you have to make sure you take the effort. Have your own space where that you can focus. Because trust me, when you from home, you'll have 10 times the doorbell ringing. You will only go open the doorbell. So how do you figure out all of this also? And also, a lot of people, when they say come back, everybody come and say, I am ready. But we keep asking them questions like, do you have a support system? That's also very, very important.
Okay.
See, earlier when a child was unwell, you're going to be there. Tomorrow, if I put you in a project, I have a deliverable, and your child is unwell, who's going to take care of the child, right? I need to know, while I can be empathetic and sympathetic, there is one deliverable.
Correct.
So the difference between doing something for your own as a project versus when you work for a client.
Okay.
So I think to transition to that, you definitely need to have various aspects other than technically upskilling yourself. You have to look into these other aspects.
Okay. So more than soft system, you need the support system
Yes,
as well.
definitely.
Okay. Okay. So one more question. Like you said about like when this being a podcast where we want to make the people understand the technology. I mean, in this case, let's take data science. So I want to understand. So you said the ETL process.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you elaborate more on the ETL process? What is data cleansing for the human out there?
Yeah. So when we started data science, we said, as you know, you can go up to the predictive analysis and all, which I can't expect a return to work woman to be there. Maybe she's not return to work. So we took her, and also we realized there's a lot of data cleansing work which needed to be done, and nobody wanted to do it because it's considered dirty work.
Correct.
We said, please give it to us. We will do it. So what is data cleansing? So you have to take the data, basically, I think you need to have a little bit of Excel skills, and you also need to be able to look at numbers. So you need to look at the numbers, see whether all of the numbers make sense, whether there's each one, if there has to be a value in each of those columns, do you have the values? If the values are not there, how are you going to fill it?
Correct.
Like, all of those skills. And then if you have a slightly bit more domain knowledge in insurance, you know over time, what is the relationship between these two columns? Why is this column missing? So slowly you'll understand those numbers also. And that I feel once you get into and do a couple of projects, it'll come to you organically. Again, none of this is rocket science.
Okay. So data cleansing is not just deleting the extra data. It is about relating and filling it and then make it proper.
Yeah. So that's and also we have also developed in-house tools, and also there are many tools available, but a lot of challenges which we face is there's a lot of compliance issues with data is given, right? People don't want to upload their data into some other tool which cleanses. So we try to, as much as possible, use our own tools and figure out our own. I mean, if you're good in Excel, you can put pivot table, write your own macros. Even reading the data, you can figure out ways on how you can filter it and see for you to check. So even if you, and actually in this process, if a total panana kuda, you can first just check the total and then look at the individual numbers. Different ways of approaching the problem is there, right? So there's one is data cleansing. There, data visualization by itself is there. For that, once you have a standardized model, you need to create a data model and that's a little bit more challenging, I would say, because there you need to kind of analyze the data, see what the data is. I think kunja domain knowledge is useful. Otherwise, you don't know how to look at it, right? Then you look at it and see, hey, this is how you analyze the data and come up with a standardized data model. I think once the data model is there, the visualization part by itself is relatively easy. But again, I would say data visualization where you come up with good graphs to represent the correct data the right way is also a great, what do I say, what to have?
It's still a skill.
It's a skill to have. It's a great skill to have because
you should know how to make it visualize for the end user.
And also the colors, right?
Correct.
What colors? Also, you just for the sake of being fancy, we can't use all the fancy graphs, right? Because sometimes there are certain rules to follow. The simpler, it's better.
Yeah.
But sometimes also when you want to show something complex, I think the art is to make it look simple when it's not simple.
Correct.
Right? So I think all of these things, there's a lot of scope.
I've seen people using red color in most of the graphs.
See,
orange also.
once we did not use red everywhere, the client was unhappy. The logo was red and they said, you should have used red.
This is another big problem.
Because we thought red was alert. We said something to be. They said, no, look at all the other beautiful charts we've used red. So we said, sorry. So see, what's the learning now? So next time what we do before we start any project, please give me your brand colors. Please give me your logo. What should I do? Then now we have standardized it. These are the different ways we can do. Please tell us which appeal to you. And 90% client will also not know till they see. But what you have learned to be methodical, right? This is my template. How can I do? Give him two options. Can you see this? Can you see this? Which do you prefer? Then you go down that route because redoing everything is not sensible, right? So, I mean, these are things also we've learned along the way, like, how to do all of that. Yeah.
I have one more question. You were talking about data model. What is a data model? Can you explain?
See, I am not techie there, but the data model is
From the use case side, you say that's more than enough.
See, basically, let's say you have a lot of data each time which comes, right? But each time, irrespective of what the data comes, let's say the end visual is going to be same. So once we arrive at this end visual, which you know what's going to happen, you create the data model so that the relationship between the tables is such that you put the correct values in the correct place. So once you do that angle, you get the data, cleanse it, extract it, transform it, call all of that and push it in those table. As long as you just keep refreshing your Power BI reports, you will get the value you want.
Okay.
So once you know the output is standardized, you can create your standardized data model.
Okay. So data model is the engine which takes your raw data and gives you the chart.
Yes.
Okay.
It is in between.
In between.
Yeah.
Okay. So in your case, like you build the data models or like how it happens? Like
see, again, the data models, if your visualization is standardized, it makes sense to build a data model.
Okay.
If your visualization is not standardized, it doesn't make sense to build.
Correct.
So again, it depends on the company, what kind of work we do. Sometimes somebody will say, just give me a one-off chart. அப்போ வந்து காம்ப்ளிகேட்டா யோசிச்சு அத அப்படியே நீங்க எக்ஸெல்ல இருந்து ஒரு பவர் பை போட்டு எடுத்துடலாம். But if it's an ongoing project with the company, where you say month on month I'm going to get these values, then every month this is a report I want to see, then this is a comparison I do with the previous months and month, then we know the output is standardized. On the standardized output, because the data there'll be multiple tables, multiple relationships, what do you do, and there's some dimension model and all those a little bit more complex, which I'm not going to say anything wrong and sound stupid here. You can cut all of this later. I don't want any of this there, but all of that is there. Slowly changing dimension, SCD 1, SCD 2, all of that, right? You involve all of that to see what is you don't over architect it also. So it purely depends on what comes to us. As I said, a long-term project, I will spend more time so that it's effective for me also. I don't want to spend the same time. A short-term, quick turnaround project, we give what the client wants.
Okay.
But if we consult, we will of course advise with them saying this is a better way, and it's the call is up to them. See, because a constant challenge is data and compliance. So
what is the relationship here?
See, if I'm working with an insurance company and they're giving, I'm telling you what we do. They give us all these PDFs which have a lot of data, and we do data extraction. That's one thing we do. So we actually, by virtue of the service we do, we build out a tool. We extract the data in all of these PDFs, and then we store it in some data warehouse, which is the data we use to build the visualization tools, right? So, but I cannot take and store your data in my cloud because you're worried about data privacy.
Correct.
So the one thing, we will never store data.
Okay.
Once I do the extraction, it's just an Azure document intelligence. So we will extract the data and store everything in the client's cloud.
Okay.
Because they don't want their cloud to be outside. So the only time the data will go out is when you do document intelligence something to extract the data. But let's say in our case, there are some, so what we've done is, I don't know, so in insurance, you have these reports which come from multiple carriers. They're called loss runs. Okay. So we have ML trained about 150 of those documents. So that ML train model lies in my system. That's a little tool we created, right? So if you come, we will extract it and send you the data. So either some people say extract on the data, or just give it to me JSON format or Excel format, we give it to you. You want to go one step further, other one, then our database la potu visualize panni kudupen. This is a very standard use case which most people do, like, you know.
Okay.
But beyond that, we are also now dipping our feet into seeing whether we can use Gen AI for some of our use cases.
Okay.
But I think it's, my understanding, it's still nascent.
Yep.
And I think it is very expensive. But I think we are actually in the process of doing a small project just to understand for ourselves, I think, just to see why probably to do or not to do, to even have that conversation, right? I think if we are in this industry and want to say we are in the forefront of technology too, I think
at least
use the word article. Unless I try, I'm telling your version of the truth. Unless I spend some time and effort and see and say, hey, na kudukre, but it's going to take that much money, na.
Correct.
Though I know the answer because I've spoken to so many people, I think it's a good exercise for us to see whether it's worth it or maybe you have to start early to be there 2 years from now. I don't know.
Okay.
So I think we're doing a little bit of experimentation in that side also.
Yes. Chitra, I'll dive into one part of, like, you talk about support system.
Yeah.
So what is the support system actually you're looking from men?
From men. So I'll tell you.
I'll put it clear and
Clearly out there.
loud.
So gender agnostic distribution of household work,
Okay.
which means it doesn't matter. All work at home, it should not matter if you're a man or woman, everybody should do it. Because I think unless we do that, you're not going to free up any time for the woman to do something else at the very base level. See, I had a great support system. See, strategically, I stayed next to my parents.
Okay.
So that, let's say, I can have somebody take care of my children, right? But avanga 5:30 kalapuyamanga. So my father or mother will come and say, okay, appa late arena. 6:30 ashra 1 hour they'll sit with their children. Avladha. Similarly, my husband was very good. He goes for, I think Chinna Westler, he was like the favorite parent.
Okay.
PTA meetings, all birthday parties, there'll be group of women and he'll be the only man. But he was okay with it. See, but you need that. So at the end of the day, you're only doing it for your family.
Correct.
So I think on the mindset irundhudna, it should not matter. I mean, how many women forget even cooking a meal for their wife? How many men actually go buy vegetables? If there's a to-do list, do you do any of that? I don't know. I mean, do any of you do? Are any of you married?
Yeah.
Do you do? See, that's brilliant. You cook for her. That's all you need. You need. Yeah, but that's okay. See, my point is, even as long as you're aware that you have to help. Yeah, I think, and also even as that person see, I'll tell you another example, right? See, in my son had his investiture, okay? So I was traveling that time and I could not come. And then he said, oh no, Amma, it's okay, you don't have to come. Then, but I was feeling very guilty. I told Pawan and he FaceTime panni kaatid. And then in some argument, he said, Amma, you were not even there for my investiture. I said, Theriyuma, idella nadandadilla na paathen. Then I can see the click on his face saying, oh, Amma didn't make the effort. See, that's all it matters. See, when you know that person is trying,
Correct.
it goes miles, yeah. So I think that's at a smaller level. But if a woman has to, again, I'll tell you the larger picture. I think we spoke in terms of at the junior level and the entry level, the equal men and women, right? Mid-career level, there are less women because they are... the more family responsibilities happen. And as a result of which you don't have enough C-suite or senior level women out there. So somewhere here, that's where GoZeal also wants to help you in the mid-level to say, lean on us, we'll support you. At the end of 8-10 years, please go back to a senior level because you will not have a career break. So just look at GoZeal as an intermediate stopgap because we want more women out there at a senior level making change, bring awareness. Again, I'll give you a simple example. I think in one company, I used to drop my kids at 8:30 and maybe reach work by 9. And I used to leave at 5:30. So actually, one day my manager came and told me, oh, people are complaining that you're leaving sharp at 5:30. But I said, why not? Because the men would come at 10-11 and they'll stay till 7. So perception is, oh, you're money. But I'm like, how does it matter? But what I'm saying is, why aren't you aware that they have family and children and they have to go back home? Home takes you 45 minutes and then all of that is there. And again, I think that awareness comes from a very strong leadership, which I think if you have women at a leadership level, it is easier.
Correct.
Because they understand the problem. And even if women are not there, I think you need men who really want to foster an environment for women to thrive and grow.
Sure.
See, I see a lot of women in your office, which is great. We need more of that. See, men are a crucial part of the solution now. Without men, we can't have this discussion of all of the sharing responsibility. So I think the men should be involved in discussions and also enlightened to see how they can help us. And I'm sure once it's done, as we have examples here, they will do it.
Okay. You spoke about the support system. Let's say if I am a woman and I want to, let's assume, start a career in data science. Where should I do or what should I do? What are the basic, without doing, you'll not be able to get that.
See, again, I think that's another challenge because even for us, it's so vast. What do we know? Should I study Power BI? Should I study Tableau? I really don't know. It's a tougher question to answer, right? So I would say pick one. And somewhere, even in the GoZeal case, what we do is we get these women And then we are constantly training them also. And the way we do it is, because we're a slightly smaller company, we're able to do it. We have a clear training track for each of them. So what we do is we rather focus on somebody's strengths. If you're good at visualization, please focus on Power BI. If you're good at logic, do like other side of it, right? And we have a track, and I think even for they've signed up for your Guvi course, which is happening, right? I think 10 of our girls have signed up saying, I've also signed up. So I'm not sure how much I'm going to learn Python, but hoping to jump from C++ to Python. Let's see.
No, for a C++ person, Python is nothing.
It's tough to say which one. If you study this, you will get a job is a problem. And I think that's why it's good to be in a system like GoZeal, where even we can't promise, that what we do is we upskill you, and then when we get certain jobs, we put you on a training track, and then and also fundamentally we fill skill gap in a client system, right? So then when you're working with us, we put you there, and we've already trained you like to a certain level, and then you're organically trained somewhere. But I think, again, I feel in today's situation, it doesn't matter whether you're working or not working, this constant upskilling has to become second nature for you. Change is the only thing which is constant, and you have to be relevant. And to be relevant, I think there's only so much as a company or as an organization anybody can do. You have to be out there. I don't know, at least following 3-4 people who are relevant to you, whether on LinkedIn or look at people like Guvi who are doing relevant training programs, be part of it. And there are lots of free programs also. You have to keep in that same space and figure out and pick out which works for you.
Okay. I learned something. I get into a job. So do you see any challenges in the women who you take inside? So what are the things you want to have better before getting into the client side thing?
Okay, see, first when the women come, there's a huge lack of confidence. Okay, that's when they come after a break. Because let's say they would have done... again, we have somebody called Vasu, who's probably a great, she now leads the largest client servicing team for us. And purely because of her family commitment, she could not, she took a break. And all we did was give her support and flexibility, and she's doing a great job, right? So, but even though, so we'll be talking with Vasu and say, Vasu would be like, when I was in Finland, I'm like, Vasu, when were you in Finland? She said, oh, when I was a project manager, I was there. So these women have done so much, right? But after a break, you're willing to come anywhere to just get back. To me, each one of those women, I mean, I think all women are goddesses, okay? I'm there. They're the rock stars in my life. That's what I look at. Each woman you don't have to accomplish anything great, but each one by themselves are. So first is the lack of confidence, which I think we have to overcome that. I think once you overcome that, everything is easier. First is confidence. 2 is definitely outdated set of skills. Also, I think it takes a certain intelligence to see where to plug in your previous experience to make it relevant today. See that if you too much keep asking somebody else for advice, it is very difficult for me to know what your experience is. But let's say, for example, you've been a UX person. There's so much of opportunity. Go learn Figma. I mean, Figma, people are charging so much per hour. Use it. So I think you need to see what your previous experience was versus what is it today. Right. And in most cases, it will be like a new tool or something you need to learn, and you will fill the gap. So I think that you will have to do, update your skill set. And 3, that support system, you have to set up something. Okay. Because if you have child fever now, if you can't take care of the child, somebody has to be.
Correct.
So I think that, and then also I think once you've come on board, this being client ready and just going through a course are 2 different things again. So that one gap is there. I think in GoZeal, our expectation is you take accountability and you complete the job thoroughly.
It is not doing what is said.
Exactly. And also don't think somebody's always going to check what you do. Let's assume if you're a consultant with somebody, I give you the work, you're going to return the work back to me. So you have to make sure end to end it is correct. I think that mindset has to come. And also the mindset to be, to the point you said earlier, don't expect things to be told to you constantly. You have to start looking around. You have to start seeing what's new out there and see how we can apply it to it's not like we all know everything.
Yeah.
We are also putting ourselves in places and seeing how we can incorporate it, right? So being a startup, it's not easy at all.
Correct.
We are bootstrapped and we're trying to do 10 million things. So I think you have to just be aware, constantly listen to people talk, take it in, and then see how you can apply it to your use case. I think that, and convey that. See, there's no right and wrong. See, I might say 10 things. Maybe 9 of them are stupid also. That's okay. But unless you say it, we don't know.
Exactly.
Right? And I think you should just speak up, take more accountability, put yourself out there, and it's okay to fail.
Is it okay to fail?
Yes. Again, that's my personal story. I thought it was not okay to fail. Now I see failure as an opportunity to grow and learn. In fact, I keep telling my children that make all the mistakes when you're younger. It's easier to get up, dust yourself, and move on.
What if you go get used to the habit of failing? Is it okay? I mean, I've seen like people saying that failure is not right because the kids will get used to it and they'll not have the discipline.
If you don't fail, no. What is failure? See, you try something and you fail, right? Then you have to try to get better at it. But even if you keep failing, it doesn't mean you stop, right? See, either at one point you need to say, oh, I can't do this anymore, and maybe take another path. But I think the mistake I made was fear of failure. I became risk-averse. I feel so stupid. I had so many opportunities. I should have grabbed and just gone for it. And there's one book called Who Movement by Dr. Spencer Johnson. I would recommend. I usually carry copies and give it to people. Okay. I think everybody must read it. It just talks about how change is inevitable, how you have to prepare for change, how you have to adapt to change, and you actually have to proactively expect the change to happen and be ready. It's about 2 mice and 2 men, and how it's a very thin, short book, but it's beautiful. I think every 6 months, including me, I keep reading the book to say, no, it's important. Because sometimes, I think I also fell into the category, right? See, you have 2 children, there's home, and then you're in one space, you're happy. Because you go to work, finish your work, there's money in the bank. It's all, but are you really pushing yourself? You have to ask the question. And, it's okay also not to push yourself. That's also fine, right? Because
it's a choice.
But if you're not, and you want to be there doing things which matter, and if you have that hunger, you should. I think that's come back to me in the last 5 years.
Okay.
The last 5 years, the love of learning, I've started reading again, and it's almost like when blind has been removed from front of me. I'm like, everything is beautiful, everything is nice, all women are great. Like, people are scared to talk to me right now because I go on this. But I think just go out there and try things which even if you think interests you, just try it. Okay. And then you will know.
Yes. One last question. So you already said, I was about to ask the book, you already said it. Is there any other book apart from Who Moved My Cheese?
That only really moved me.
That's only thing.
No, I'll tell you why. Because it's a very simple book. It's like literally, see, for me,
80 pages, I guess.
And for me, it's very easy to read. Complicated language.
Even the language is also so sweet.
So simple. And the message is so powerful. I'm not even joking. I was like, why the hell did somebody not ask me to read this book earlier? Okay. Or even it was, I think, on my bookshelf. I said, why did I not read it? So you have some complex books about figuring out yourself. I think don't overcomplicate things.
Okay.
Just keep it simple. And I think if this is figured out, the thing that will happen.
Thank you, Chitra. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah. Bye.